What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Crazy Face Uno podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. What's your story? If you'd like to support the show and help us tell more stories like the one you're about to hear, please visit crazyfaceuno.com today. There you can purchase items from our online store or donate. As always, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest today, Saul Malone. Welcome, Saul. How's it going, man?
What's up, dude? Sorry I jumped the gun a little bit there. I am stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Yeah, we kind of put this one together pretty quick here, huh?
Yeah.
Reached out to you the other day, and you've got a tight schedule, and man, my December filled up pretty quick too, so it kind of worked out perfect. We were able to get it in tonight, so thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for thinking of me. Glad to do it. You know me, just so busy all the time.
Yeah. I mean, life, right?
Definitely, bro.
Yeah, we met at Invisible Children, like many of my guests. And what tours were you on? I was trying to think about that.
I was just on the one. I just did spring 2012, so I did Coney 2012, like the tour. Okay. I guess if there was one to be on.
Yeah. I don't know. That was the roughest one to be on, maybe.
Yeah, I guess that's not the best way to phrase it, but I was on that one.
Yeah.
The most infamous one.
Yes, that's for sure. That is for sure. Cool. Yeah. What area did you tour?
So I was Team Midwest. So we did mostly Chicago and like the Chicago suburbs, but definitely spent some time in Wisconsin, which I actually loved. Yeah. I fell in love with Wisconsin after touring through it. And then we did some stuff in Minnesota, like a couple Indiana stops as well. So definitely hit the Midwest. Yeah. But mostly Chicago suburbs, and Wisconsin was kind of our main stopping grounds.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, dude, I don't think I've talked to you since then, for sure, or, around that time at least.
Yeah.
Fill me in. I know you've got, I know you've had a few different things going on, but what are you up to these days?
Yeah. So I think, we're like definitely like social media friends, but I don't think we've like talked in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
But I live in LA currently.
Nice.
I live in LA and I work for LeBron James's athlete empowerment brand.
Oh, cool.
And it's super fun. It's a company called Uninterrupted, and they have a podcast team. They release podcasts kind of for athletes by athletes.
Nice.
And their main NFL podcast is called The Tomahawk Show, and it's hosted by two guys that used to play on the Browns, Joe Thomas and Andrew Hawkins.
Okay.
So Tomahawk, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah, that is.
But I am.
That is clever.
It's pretty good. So I'm their social media guy. So I do all of our social posts. I do a lot of kind of video editing for social moments and that sort of stuff. I do a lot of copywriting for social. I also write a little bit for the podcast, just small things that are going to be, either ad reads or some small things that they just happen to need for the show. They come to me for a lot of their writing needs. And then I'm also a freelance writer who writes for SB Nation's Arkansas blog. So it's called Arkansas Fight. So I cover mostly our football team and our baseball team, and I'm also the co-host of our podcast that we do for SB Nation, which is super fun. Nice,
dude. You're killing it. You are staying busy. No lie. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's super fun though. I love sports, and so to be around it at all times is pretty cool. And they let me do movie reviews for the site as well, and I love movies, so getting a chance to write about movies is super cool. So definitely just getting to talk about things I like, which is very enjoyable.
Right. That's what I love about podcasting and, what I'm doing as well. It's the same. It's like, man, I have a gift of gab, and, it's just nice to come on and, catch up with old friends and, people like you that are doing some really awesome stuff out there these days and, involved with some different things. And it's just cool to see, where people are at now and kind of the path that led them there,
Yeah. So you're in Florida now, right? Am I allowed to ask you questions?
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
You're what are you doing in Florida, man? Last time I checked, you were in Minneapolis.
I know. Yeah, you were coming through. You were with a band, right? You were touring with a band.
Yeah, definitely.
And I actually still feel bad that I wasn't able to host you. Like, it pains me that I didn't get to like have you guys in. That like, I just like, you and I know, when you go on the road and like, you have those moments and you're like, you just need a hand, you just need a little help. And I just wasn't able to do it, and it just bummed me out. I was thinking about that even as I was like reaching out to you. I was like, oh shoot, man, like that sucks so much. But I was in St. Paul, Minnesota. I lived there for about 6 years after leaving Invisible Children at the end of 2012, and moved out there February 2013, and then found my wife, got married, and
married guy.
Yeah. So, and she's actually the reason I'm in Florida. So she got a promotion at work and brought our family down here. It was kind of one of those no-brainers. Like, okay, here we go, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
where in Florida are you?
South Florida, just north of Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. So Coconut Creek, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's like sick part of Florida. Whenever we used to whenever I worked on work tour, we would go down to Fort Lauderdale and play shows there. It was really nice. One of my favorite stops of the summer was always Fort Lauderdale. It was hotter than heck.
Yeah.
But the venue was like this park that backed up right to the ocean, which was always really pretty. Yeah. So pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a fun area. We ventured down that way quite a bit. I mean, we're like, 30 minutes from Fort Lauderdale, like 45 minutes from Hollywood, like Hollywood Beach area. And then like an hour from, Miami. So it's like, Miami's like a day trip. You just take a trip down there or whatever, and it's not too bad. And this area just in general is pretty fun. I actually I wasn't sure how I was gonna like it, and I've actually enjoyed it. It's been pretty fun. Florida's different, and I had to get my head around the fact that it wasn't California.
Florida is a completely different beast, man.
I know. Yeah, so different. But that's like, it's like, I don't know, maybe you don't, but you see palm trees, and living in California, in San Diego at Invisible Children and whatnot, it was like, I really loved it there. Like, that was, if I had one place to choose where I'd like go, I'd probably go back there for sure. It's awesome. But like when I was looking for a place to live down here, I had this thing in my mind, of like this vibe I wanted to like find or whatever, and it's just like, nope, it's not the way it works. So
yeah,
here we are.
It's hard to like live in a place that kind of feels like California and like has a similar kind of atmosphere and vibe, but isn't, because you feel like not tricked necessarily, but it feels like, oh, I'm expecting these things to happen, or I'm expecting a certain way to go, and then it just does it because it's Florida and not California.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you ever find yourself like kind of psyching yourself up for something to happen, then it doesn't, and not like you're letting yourself down, but that maybe you kind of set yourself up to feel disappointed?
Yeah, and I was afraid that that's the way this was going to be. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, that was like my fear when I was like looking at apartments and houses and whatnot. Like, we were down here, and I was just like, that was it, and I realized it, which was probably the best thing that could have happened. But I was like, oh, like I'm trying to find California, but I'm not in California,
Right.
And but I've been like pleasantly surprised, and I think that's like the icing on the cake. It's been really good. We've slowly, we've been here. I moved here early August, kind of into July.
Yeah.
And so it's like finding a new place. Whenever you move to a new area, it's always hard to like meet new people, especially as an adult. And so slowly, meeting new people, finding our little, things we like to do, and finding our way around. It's always, you've turned the corner when you like don't need the GPS to get from place to place.
Yeah. I mean, I've only lived in LA a little over a year now. I moved here basically Labor Day of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And to like, things happen so quickly here, but like when I first moved here, it was like the first few months was like I had to find a job, and then I have to find a place to live.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now I have a job, and now I have a place to live, so I can focus a little bit more on
right,
making friends or figuring out what I like.
Yeah.
And like only in like the last, I would say, really like 4 or 5 months has it really started to feel like, oh, I live here. Like this is where I live, and it feels familiar and comfortable. And like, it's funny. I always tell people, I didn't think I was gonna move to LA. It wasn't like my favorite place. Whenever we would do tours and stuff,
yeah,
I didn't love coming to LA. It wasn't like my favorite place. But as the more I came here and started going to like neighborhoods, and instead of just like venues and places to play shows or whatever, it started to become more and more fun of like, oh, these people like their neighborhoods. And I didn't realize how big of like a neighborhood town LA kind of is. And like where you live matters, and because it depends on like what you're doing. And so I live in East Hollywood, and it's like Silver Lake and Los Feliz area. And I literally live right underneath the Hollywood sign, which is pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
It's a super cool like view out of my bedroom window. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But like I love where I live. I'm super close to there's a lot of cool restaurants and bars and like the UCB theater and like a lot of the places where I do like open mics with my roommate. We live close enough to just walk and stuff. So once I got settled down into this area and started learning about it, I really started liking LA.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Does it ever feel surreal, like looking out and seeing the Hollywood sign? Just like,
it's never lost on me that things like that happen. Like, that I live underneath the Hollywood sign, or that Griffith Park and like the Griffith Observatory is like right above me as well. And like, it's so funny. Like I've lived here for a while, and like, I understand that movies shoot here, you know what I mean? Like this is just, it's a thing. But then like, I'll see someplace in a movie that I know. Yeah. I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm so close to that. It's so cool. And I still get like the thrill of living in like Hollywood, which is so dumb. Like I lived here for like a year, and I thought at some point I'd be over it. Like we were watching, there's a movie on Netflix called Dolomite Is My Name. It's like the new Eddie Murphy movie. It's really funny and good, but there's a scene where they're like literally walking down the street, and they literally walk in front of like the street that I live on. And like, you could see the Hollywood sign. Like I get why people shoot near us, because we just have like down our street, you just see the sign really well. It's like framed up nicely. Yeah. And me and my roommate like still freaked out. We're like, holy crap, you can like see our apartment essentially. And if we like put it all together, because when we first moved in, they had these like notice of filming signs, and like a year later it comes to fruition that it was an Eddie Murphy movie. And like, I'm still like not jaded or cynical enough just yet to get over it. Like I feel like maybe one more year I'll be like, yeah, whatever, it's just how they do stuff around here. But for now I'm like, oh, that's us, that's me.
I think it's cool. I mean, hopefully it doesn't wear off, but
I'd like to think it won't. Like, I'm still just always kind of starstruck no matter what happens out here. That's always kind of looking up.
So what was the decision to move to LA?
Yeah, so I have been doing stand-up for roughly...
Really? That's awesome.
5 years now? Been doing stand-up for like 5 years now. And a lot of my friends have moved out here to do stand-up, and I started doing improv, and they just do a lot of comedy stuff. And like, the dream has always been to be a writer. I'm not necessarily sure. For a while, it's like I want to write TV, and now I'm kind of learning since I'm out here, like, I think I'm funny, but being out here with people that are like very funny, it just kind of like puts it in perspective of like, oh man, there's like a whole different level of people that are funny.
Sure.
And it's not like in a way of like self-depreciation, but just more like a good reality check. Yeah. Of like, okay, if you want to be like funny for money, like funny as a job, funny, like you're gonna put in a little more work.
Right. Right.
So I've always wanted to be a writer, and the goal was to be in a writer's room for TV. But I also think a goal, like kind of a newly forming goal since I've been out here, is to like write about TV and write about movies instead of writing for them, because at the very least I feel like I'm funny enough to discuss people that are funny, you know what I mean? It's like kind of the next level down. But I've wanted to like try to pursue that for a while, and just you kind of have to be like around people that are doing that, and LA and New York are kind of the places that's happening, and I prefer being warm over being cold. And
hell yeah.
Just from my like touring days, like touring with bands and stuff, I just have a lot of friends out in LA, and jobs are kind of, you can just not like just get a job. Like it's not as easy as it sounds. But
you have connections.
There's connections. There's more opportunities, and so I was living in Arkansas because I was touring with bands as my job for most of the time. And one, it's just really cheap to live in Arkansas, and it's important to like when you're on the road. Like it was important for me because I'm not spending a lot of time at quote unquote home. So if I'm going to pay rent, I want the rent to be cheap.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to like not be spending my time. Like if I was touring and living in LA, I would be spending $1,000 for an apartment that I'm not in. Whereas in Arkansas, I'm spending $300 for an apartment I'm not in,
Exactly.
which is way better.
Yeah.
But once I like took a break from touring, I was like, well, what do I want to actually do now that I'm not doing this? And I was like, well, I think I want to go and try and pursue, this comedy thing. And I think LA's the place to do it. And the guy I live with now had been living out here for a year. We met doing stand up in Arkansas. And he was like, yeah, it's really fun out here. And if you want to live together, we can live together. So
perfect.
I hit him up and we kind of coordinated. And I had to find a job first because rental rules are very, very stringent in the California, as you know.
Yeah.
But we pulled it off and got an apartment, and I've been here since last September.
That's awesome. Congrats. That's so cool.
Thanks.
You've mentioned a couple times you toured with bands and whatnot.
Yeah.
I know you did. Was the band you were touring with? I don't quite understand the scene necessarily. So, but like Warped Tour, is that like its own thing, or is it like? Explain that.
So, I grew up going to Warped Tour. Like my first like concert ever was like Warped Tour 2008, I think. But it wasn't like a church concert essentially. And I always grew up loving that kind of music, and so like the scene as it was like in the mid 2000s to like early 2010s, as it is like Warped Tour was the peak of that. Like that's where you went. Like you look forward to it every summer, and there were other tours that had really good bands, but like Warped Tour was the thing that you went to over the summer, and it was super fun. So for me, I kind of got hooked up with it. I did it in 2013. Was my first one when I was with a nonprofit. We did all of the California dates, and I did all the California dates with them, which was super fun. So that was like 5 dates. And then I started hosting bands at my house when they would pass through and putting them up. And so one of my friends from back in high school in Texas, where I went when I was hosting I was like getting ready to graduate college, and they were crashing on my floor. And I was like, hey, like I graduate in like a few months, and I'm not necessarily looking for like an office job or a real job, but I want to do something. So if you ever need someone to like help you out on a tour, feel free to hit me up because I'm going to be available, I think, for a few months while I'm just like being a barista or waiting tables or whatever. And he's like, cool, definitely. So he hit me up later and was like, hey, I'm tour managing these 2 bands on Warped Tour, and one of them needs a merch guy. Like, do you want to do it for the summer? It's like not a ton of money, but like you'll have a place to you'll sleep in the van and you'll have a place to crash, get food for the summer. So I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And like, I didn't expect it to become anything other than that. I was like, yeah, I'll just do this for a summer and it'll be fun and that'll be cool. But it'll be a fun story. And then I'll just go get a real job or whatever. But I did it for the summer, and it was really fun and met a lot of really cool people that I just stayed in contact with. And one of the guys the next summer that I had met on that summer was like, hey man, like we actually need a merch guy. And I thought of you, like, do you want to do it again? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, I had an internship for the summer, but I like quit it before it started and was like, hey, I think I'm going to do this again. So did Warped again. And then on that Warped, just met another few people. And from there started doing tours that weren't Warped, but were still kind of the same type of bands, like mostly pop punk and hardcore and that sort of thing. And so after that Warped, I did, fall tours and then spring tours, and then Warped again in 2017. And then my last tour I did like in the fall of 2017, which was super fun. And then I was like not doing great personally. Like I was like, oh, I need to go to figure some stuff out. And like, I need to go to therapy probably. And like, it's hard to do that on the road. So I went home, which was good because I got to like go to therapy and like figure some shit out and like really do a lot of the like work I needed to do that I wasn't doing on the road. That was like exacerbating a lot of like already, I think, problems that I had or that I wasn't like addressing. And just when you're on the road away from home, like you just don't get a chance to really address that sort of stuff. So I went home and like got a job baristaing again, started going to therapy. And like after that was like, I don't think I need to tour anymore. I don't think it's like good for me. Like it's fun. It's like a cool job, but I don't think it's like healthy for me. And like, it's like one of the first times in my life that I felt like an adult where I was like, I'm making a decision that like actively goes against what I want to do. Cause all I want to do is tour again, but like I don't need to tour. So that was cool. And then once I figured that out, it's like, okay, what do I want to do? And how do I like go about doing that? It's like, okay, I want to be funny.
Yeah.
And like, I want to write and I want to creatively express myself in some way. So how do I do that? And where should I go to do that? And that's how I ended up in LA.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
And good on you, seriously, for like seeking out the help that you needed, you know? It's been something
good.
like I've talked about for a while that I want to, and you know, I had it last year. It was last year on this time. I was just having a really hard time, and you know, I feel like I'm in a good place, but it's not like an excuse to like not go and like still work through my shit, you know? But yeah, like I admire that. I think that's really awesome, and just to own that and know that that's like what you had to do to take care of yourself. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think I owe a lot to the bands I was touring with and my friends who were like brave enough, or not brave enough, but like good enough to call me out on my shit. I'd be like, hey, dude, you're fucking up right now, and like it's not cool, and we need you to be better. So like, go home and figure it out.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like is like a really nice wake up call to be like, hey, if these people that I love and care about want me to figure my stuff out of a place of like not only like care, but of like, hey man, like we know you're better than this. Mm-hmm. I just like feel lucky that I had people that were, you know, good enough to do that and be like, hey dude, go figure your shit out. Otherwise we can't have you around. Yeah. So it was like a very jarring wake up call, but it was like one that I definitely needed. Yeah. So I'm like very, very grateful that it happened. Like at the time I was like pretty bummed of like, I don't like conflict at all.
Sure.
And like I hate, I mean, and like most people, I don't like being called out when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah.
I needed it, you know, and it was really, really good of them to do so. And for me, for once in my life, to be like, all right, I'm going to listen and not avoid addressing things that make me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like conflict either. And that sounds like a spot that like would wake you up, you know, like they'd be like, all right, I need to listen, you know. But how would you describe like touring and like being on tour? Obviously it's something you have enjoyed or do enjoy, but what is it like?
Man, it's really fun, and like it's really fun but also miserable. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's a job that I love, but like, so like for example, Warped Tour is really fun because you get to hang out with some really fun people for the 6 weeks in a row, and it's like kind of like a big summer camp. But then also you wake up every day at like 7 a.m. and you work till like 8 or 9 p.m. And then it's freaking hot all day, and you're dealing with teenagers that are just like really excited to be where they are, but also like are teenagers and are kind of annoying. And, you know, like you don't get to shower that as often as you probably like. You just kind of live in a sweat and dirt state at all times. And like Warped Tour is a different beast than like a normal tour, but like on a normal tour, it's really fun. Again, you're hanging out with a group of guys for like 4 to 6 weeks at a time. And it's really cool because you get to like experience a lot of cool things, but also you're in a van most of the day. Like you're not seeing these cities you're going to, you're seeing like parking lots and venues, and then you play the show, and then you pack up and like go to where you're staying for the night, or you like do an overnight drive because you got to drive to your next location. Yeah. So like if you're built for it, and like at the time, like I was definitely built for it. Like I didn't want to have an office job. Like I love traveling. Like I loved the type of music I was touring with. It was just fun to hang out with my dudes for like, you know, 4 to 6 weeks at a time and just like hop in a van. Like it was great. But then also there's just days you're like, I want to freaking go home, dude. Like, I don't want to talk to any of you. Like, you're all so annoying. Like, I've smelled your feet like the last 4 hours. Like, get me out of the van. Like, see, like, it's funny. Like, you know, people think, and like, I don't want to speak for anyone in a band. Like, I've done both sides of like, I've toured in a band and I've toured like just as their manager. But like, there are days when like you don't want to play the show. You're like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't want to play this show. Like, I don't want to like be in this city. Like, but like, this is my job and I'm obligated to do it. And like, the rock star lifestyle is like for sure a thing, but also like, I don't think people understand like how little money it like people make on these tours. Like, unless you're like Drake or like, you know, Maroon 5 and like
selling out the big venues and
selling out stadiums and arenas. Like, you're getting paid, you know,
diddly,
not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, no one's making money off CD sales anymore, like merch and touring or how you make money. But even then, it's like, you got to pay for your gas to get to the next show. You got to pay for, merch reprints. You got to pay for all these things. Like, you're putting money back into the band that you believe
Mm-hmm.
in. So,
and it's the wear
funny.
and tear on your body, like and your mental, your psyche, and everything.
You eat like shit for 6 weeks in a row. Like, you have to try really hard to get any sort of physical activity if you want to do it. But it's just like, it really is like, if you're built for it, it can be great. But like, even the like most hardened road warriors, and again, I'm not speaking for every like road dog, because there's people that I think I know they could tour every day and like thrive on it. But for me, it was just like, okay, I need my like few weeks off in between these tours before I go crazy.
Yeah. I mean, my only example of that would be, being on tour with Invisible Children, which is sounds similar in some ways, but very different also. And
there's a really good band called Pup from Toronto, and they have a song called "If This Tour Doesn't Kill You, I Will," which is just like, it's like a perfect summation of sometimes how touring can be, and you get it. Like, what tours did you do for IC?
I did Deep South, which is funny because that's where I live now. I was in charge of Florida. But so I was Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And then I did Great Lakes, which was Michigan, Indiana, Ohio.
What years were you?
Fall 2010 was my first tour, and then spring 2011 was my second. And then I worked in the office and then took over the vans and stuff.
Yeah, dude, you were van guy when I was there.
Van guy. Yeah, vans and shipping stuff. So, shipping the
big warehouse guy.
I love the title that I kind of created was the International Shipping and Fleet Coordinator. It just sounds so like awesome, and then way up more awesome than the job actually was, but no, it was fun. I loved it. Job. Yeah, I loved working, doing the van stuff and whatnot. It was fun. Cool, man. One thing I like to do is I like to kind of go back. I mentioned it in the beginning, but kind of like to go back. And so if we take it way back, if we look back at childhood, how would you describe your childhood? What was it like?
It's easy, I think, to look back on your childhood like with like rose-tinted glasses. It was like pretty good. Grew up in the South, like was born in Houston, grew up mostly in Alabama, Mississippi. Spent like my dad went to Ole Miss for his PhD, so he ended up living in Oxford for a long time.
Nice.
But it was okay. Like we were just very poor, like just didn't have a ton of money. It happens when your dad's in college and pursuing his PhD, but just no one ever, my parents' generations, kind of like a lot of people's parents, like no one ever taught them about like credit cards and credit card debt, because it was just like an emerging thing when they had them, and so it's just something just financially they always just kind of struggle with, because they like ended up just kind of racking up a lot of debt and having to pay it off, and they did their best to do it, but as anyone with a large amount of debt knows, it's obvious it's a big mountain to climb, especially when the interest and stuff like that kind of kicks in. Just pretty tough. So it's funny. Like, it's funny to realize, like, looking back, like how little money we had. Like, you don't really think about it when you're a kid.
No.
That sort of stuff doesn't matter. And my parents worked really hard to like make sure we were fed and stuff. But like looking back at it as an adult, it's like, oh wow, yeah, we had like no money.
That's why we did that.
It's like, oh, that's why like a vacation was just to like a state park in our own state. You know what I mean? Like that's why we did like a lot of camping and stuff like that, which like I ended up loving. Like it's I don't begrudge my parents for that at all.
Yeah.
It's funny, like when you like are an adult that has to have money, you're like, oh, now I get it. Like I get why my parents did those things.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's awesome that, even it's like making the most out of what you have, So like, even if it is like going camping at a state park somewhere, like, man, that's an experience that not everyone gets to have, and it's unique to yourself. I don't know. I think that's cool. It's like making the most of, it's maybe different than other people, but I don't know. I think that's cool.
I grew up playing a lot of sports just because like it's a, cheap thing that you can do. You can play in like the rec leagues and stuff like that. So I grew up playing until I was like in middle school and had to pick. I think I played like every sport. I played baseball, football, soccer, basketball. And then in middle school was like, well, I'm not really good at soccer or basketball, so baseball and football is, and kind of narrowed it down.
Nice.
I moved back to Houston for high school, which was great. Met a lot of my like really good friends in high school when I moved back to Houston, which is great. Technically a suburb of Houston called Cypress, but no one knows where that is, so I just say Houston.
Cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I met a lot of really good friends in high school and in Houston, and I really, really enjoyed my time in Houston, especially. Just kind of met a lot of the people that formed my taste in like music and other things, and still talk to you pretty often, which is cool. Didn't love living in Oxford. Oxford's kind of, when I was there at least, it's kind of like an old money town.
Sure.
And like
a little sleepier.
Very easy. Yeah. Same thing of like just small town where like everyone knows everyone, and there's like just a very distinct line of haves and have-nots. So
sure.
I've kind of like resented it for a while, then like made my own peace with it a few years ago. Of like, that was whatever.
It's that time. It was just that time in my life. Yeah.
So I think that was good, and now I actually kind of like going back. It's a pretty fun like little southern college town with some cool stuff.
Nice.
But moving to Houston was definitely great because just it allowed me to kind of fully become whoever I was going to be, I think.
Sure. What did you say you wanted to be when you grew up?
So I started wanted to be, the first job I ever remember wanting to have was a dump truck driver.
Nice.
Because I used to have this tape that I would watch all the time with this guy on it called Hard Hat Harry, and he would just show off different like construction equipment doing jobs, and I was like,
That's
being
awesome.
a dump truck driver looks like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So then I was dump truck driver, and then it was I wanted to be Larry Bird, like not a basketball player. I wanted to be Larry Bird. Like I'm gonna grow up to be Larry Bird. So that was like the two big ones.
Have you ever been to his restaurant?
I've never been to his restaurant somehow.
It's isn't it in Ohio? I think it's in Ohio.
Is it Ohio or Indiana?
It might be in Indiana, southern Indiana. I don't know. It's I've been there once or twice with my family, and I was younger, and I don't really remember a lot. But I just remember I can kind of see like there's just so much paraphernalia everywhere in that.
Yeah, French Lick or whatever.
Yeah, that's Indiana.
Where he's from.
Yep. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, gotta go check it out.
Yeah, I'll put it on the list.
Nice. So Larry Bird, dump truck driver, and Larry Bird. Those are solid, man.
Those are the big two. I think too. What's the other big one? I think for a while, I thought I was gonna be a teacher because both my parents were teachers for a long time. Like my dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher, and my dad like coached football and baseball, and that just seemed like a cool thing to do. But then I realized like I can't get up early, and I can't like make lesson plans. I mean, I could, but like that for a while I was like, I'll be a teacher, and then as I got older, I was like, probably not for me.
What kind of a student were you in like middle school, high school?
I was a pretty good student. I was always like on the honor roll. I mean, it was always hard growing up with parents as teachers. They just know how you're doing constantly in school, so you kind of have to be
on
doing
top
well.
Of things. Yeah.
On top of things. I was a good student, but I naturally I just kind of enjoyed school. Like I never dreaded going to school. Like I liked learning, and I liked going, like the social aspect of it. Like I think I got lucky that I lived in towns no matter what that had really good public schools, and so the schools I went to were great, and I was always very good in like English and history and like those sort of things, but I was also very bad at math. It's not a math person, which is crazy because both my parents are very good at math and science, and I just like suck at them. I was really good at like, I was like a theater kid and played baseball and was good at like English and history, and then when it came to math, I think I did like the bare minimum to get a B.
Yeah, I feel you there. That's a common theme amongst a lot of people. People just don't like math. It's just a rough one.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough. So you're involved in sports throughout those times of your life.
I
baseball and football. You said.
Yeah, I played baseball and football up until my junior year of high school, and after that, I kind of realized like I'm not gonna go any farther. Like it's fun, but like I'm not really gonna go any farther with it. So my senior year, I just decided it's like I'm done with these things.
Sure. What positions did you play?
So in baseball, I was a catcher and a second
Nice.
baseman, and like sometimes did like a little middle relief pitching. And then
Nice.
in football, I was actually a quarterback for a long time, and then I played tight end a little bit, and then sometimes played quarterback again. But they're always like I've always been described as like more athletic than I look, because if you just looked at me, you would be like, oh, that guy is good at sports. But like once I start playing, like I am like a little quicker than people think, or just have like a little
Sure.
better reflexes than people might imagine. So.
Sure.
Which is really fun now that I play just like kind of casual sports. It's always
Yeah.
fun to just like surprise people in that way. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
baseball was definitely my best sport, and my main position was catcher.
Nice. That's awesome. Catcher. I always
Yeah.
wanted to play baseball. I was a soccer and wrestling were my two sports.
And you grew up in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, Indiana. Yep.
I feel like wrestling was kind of a big deal in Houston. Like we had a pretty good wrestling squad, but like I feel like up in Indiana and like the Midwest, like wrestling and hockey and soccer are like the big three.
Yeah.
Like football is obviously a big deal kind of everywhere, but like
Yeah.
of the auxiliary sports, like those are things like in growing up in the South, like no one really paid attention to.
Well, there isn't
like,
a college team in any of the South, any of the southern states. So like
for
Texas,
men's
Mississippi.
soccer, yeah.
Well, and for wrestling, like there's no
Oh, yeah, true.
there's no college teams. So it's
Yeah.
all like Midwest, like Pennsylvania, East Coast, California, Midwest, and so like none of the southern schools have like wrestling programs. So it's interesting. It's a unique thing. I think I don't quite understand that, but I don't know. I guess maybe because there's such powerhouses in some of the other big sports and male dominated sports. So I'm sure that some of the the different things they've got going on with balancing the male female numbers out and whatnot.
Yeah, the University of Arkansas, where I went to college, where I finished up college, they have an amazing women's soccer team. Like,
Nice.
we just got bounced from the NCAA tournament by North Carolina State, who were very good, but we were like a 3 seed in the tournament. We won the SEC like regular season championship. Nice. We were the runners up at the SEC tournament. Just like a very good team that was like super fun to watch.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up with, Indiana, so I was a couple hours from IU. So we'd go and watch the IU teams play a lot. They're powerhouses, and for a while they were. I haven't followed the collegiate soccer really in quite some time. It's been a while. I've followed I was a wrestling coach back in Minnesota, so I followed wrestling quite closely, religiously, and I've since I moved here, I'm not coaching. I see the season's going and that there's wrestling happening, but it's like, I don't know. There's like, I haven't watched any yet. It feels weird.
Yeah, man. Do you miss coaching?
I do miss coaching. I miss it. I think it's good. I mean, I'm enjoying the break. But it's weird to be at this time of year and not be submerged into wrestling and stuck in a gym all the time. My schedule is just like winter was, it's from basically Thanksgiving till like April.
Yeah.
March, April, somewhere in there. And so it's just like, I'd leave work. I'd go straight from my school where I worked, and then I'd go straight to the gym, and I'd be there from 2:30 till, 6 sometimes, 5:30, 6, and that's like just being there. I'd always be available for the kids and kind of help out where I could, and do whatever you needed to do. And then that's just practice days, not including like match days. And then wrestling's one of those that almost every Saturday you have like a tournament of some sort, and you're going to get up and meet at the school by 6:30 and get home at between 5 and 6, and just a long day, so
then rinse and repeat and do it again.
It was sit on my butt and watch football on Sundays, and then get up and do it again on Monday. So
man.
But I mean, when you love it, when it's something you enjoy, when it's fun, it's I don't know, it's different,
Yeah, definitely, man.
Did you ever get in trouble when you were high school?
Not really in high school. In middle school, I was kind of a little punk.
Yeah.
I actually had my mom as a 7th grade science teacher, which was pretty funny, and she definitely gave me lunch detention a few times. Um, but no, I never, I never really got in like major trouble when I was
Yeah.
a high school kid. I think it's because like the people I hung out with were never like really troublemakers and like just kind of normal high school kid stuff of like I smoked like cigs before I turned, when I wasn't 18, and
Yeah.
definitely like broke my curfew or whatever a few times.
Sure.
But I can't think of anything where my parents like had to like ground me or like withhold anything from me. And
Yeah.
like I wish I had like a more punk rock childhood
I know.
sometimes, where it like adds up now because like, but like no, I was like a pretty good kid, and like it always feels weird to say that, I think, but
Yeah.
I don't want to lie and be like, yeah, dude, I was always getting in trouble, and I just wasn't.
I like to ask that question, and I haven't had anybody be like, "Yeah, I was a little shit," or like, "I got into trouble," or everybody's like, "No, it's good. Like, I didn't do anything." I'm like, okay. I'm like hopeful, one of these days somebody's gonna have a great story and be like, "Yeah, dude, like I did." But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty common with the guests I've had on for the most part.
Yeah.
But with your parents being teachers, did that like influence or have an effect on you guys' relationship, or what was your relationship like with your parents?
It was pretty good growing up. My dad and I had some issues growing up because he was like was a little bit of like an alcoholic,
Yeah.
but he like figured it out when I was in like 8th grade, and like he went to
Gotcha.
therapy and like went to rehab and like got his shit figured out, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And like after that, me and him started going, like we started like fixing our relationship, and like throughout high school and like into early college, we like really
That's
turned
cool.
it around, which I thought was great. Um, my mom and I were always close when I was little. I like as an adult, I think am a little more independent in the sense of like I don't super need to like see my family to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think that like sometimes hurts their feelings because I don't know how to communicate them that it's not personal. Like I love my family, like I love my parents, I love my sister, but like I can only spend so much time around them before I feel like kind of drained. And I get more energy in like being around friends, which is
Sure.
like hard to explain to them. And like they get it now, especially because I live so far away from like my sister lives fairly close to them. Like she lives in Austin, and they're in Arkansas, and it's not that far. But like I'm over in LA, like just time zones away.
Right.
And but like I love it. I love just like living out here, like and all the friends I've made out here. So it's like I think they feel like we've grown apart, whereas like I don't feel that. Like I still like know very much that I love and care about them, and vice versa. But just I don't need as much like time with them, I think, is the and I too they're getting like a little older. Like they're not like super old yet, but my dad's in his 60s and my mom turned 60 this year. So like they're getting older, and I think they're starting to like they're just like, oh, I want to spend time with my kids more, and I'm just so far away, it's kind of hard to do that. But like I call them like pretty much weekly, or if not every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We have like conversations and catch up and stuff. But I definitely think they want me to be like closer or like around more.
Yeah. I know. I feel like my family does too, but we finally like I was an only child growing up. So I have a stepbrother and sister now, and but growing up I was the only child, and so I don't know, I think it was really hard for my mom to see me kind of like leave the nest, and kind of go out on my own, and living in California was tough for her. I think, that was like one of the first steps that was like, again, the time zone thing it's a huge thing actually, because it's like, right now we started 7:00 your time, which is 10:00 my time, and
yeah, dude.
It's like get off work, when we would get done at Invisible Children, and be like, some days it was 5, some days it was 7, some days it was later, and it's like I can't even call anybody now. Everybody's asleep, like everybody's in bed, so like it just makes it really difficult. Be a lot of lunch breaks where you like called your family and whatnot, but I feel like that transition is, I can see it, like you can see it.
Yeah.
Texting's changed the game.
Yeah.
Because my family can text me now, and
yeah,
finally I feel like my mom and my dad are both like on texting.
Yeah.
Have the ability to text, and
My parents have the ability, but I don't think they just still would prefer a phone call. And it's so funny. Like, I do stand up and improv, and like, I'm just very used to being in front of people, but I get so anxious when people call me on the phone.
Oh,
like,
same,
regardless of who it is.
Why
like, if someone just calls me, I get sweaty.
Yeah.
Like, because my mom just always will just like call unannounced, and it's always just like, which is like fine, but like I'm usually at work or like doing something.
Yeah.
And like I have to like, I'll like answer it, but like I have to be like, hey, I can't talk right now. And I feel bad, but also it's like I'm also doing things that are like important to me. Like, I love you, but like, let's like, if you have to tell me when you're gonna call, so I can like plan to be available. But when she just like cold calls me, I just assume something is wrong. But it's always just like, how you doing? Like, what are you doing right now? It's like, I'm at work because it's like noon here. So just give me a little heads up. I was like, even if you just give me like a 5-minute text warning, like, hey, I need to call you in 5 minutes, then I'll feel like ready to like land the plane. But my mom and dad both should just be like, all right, I'm just gonna call him and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. I get so anxious with phone calls. Like, I had a buddy that I was catching up with. Actually, I did a podcast with him recently, but he was like, man, I've never had to schedule a phone call so much in my life. And I was like, yeah, sorry, dude. Like, it's me. It's not you, you know? But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's a weird like feeling. And I remember actually the first person I ever heard say that they like didn't like phone calls was Jason Russell.
Yeah.
And he made a comment about like, oh, I hate phone calls, you know, like it just like it makes me anxious. Like, I'd much rather just text. And I didn't get it at the time, and now I'm like, oh, totally get it. Like, I'm right there with you, man. But yeah, I don't like it.
I feel like I have to like, I think I'm pleading. I'm like, please just text me. Like, like, just whatever it is. Email, if it has to be long, just email me. I will get back to you immediately. Like, please just do not call me.
Yeah.
But then I feel like a hypocrite because every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I'll just call him. It's waiting.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem firing off a phone call.
But when you're ready, but it's like you being prepared. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, my parents both text me, so it's nice. I mean, I really appreciate that, and I'm sure they would appreciate a phone call a little bit more often than I give it to them, but we stay in touch nonetheless. So, such is life. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. They're probably listening. What led you to like your college decision? Did you know what you wanted to do when you were like in high school?
No, not at all. To be honest, like, I just knew that I wanted to go to college, and like that was it, really. And I knew I was a good student, and so I think I was actually a theater major my freshman year because I really enjoyed doing theater. Really enjoyed doing theater in high school. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to do, like, I just like theater. I don't want to do theater. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do I know I'm good at? I was like, well, I always got good grades in English on like papers I would write. So I was like, okay, I'll just switch to journalism. So I switched to journalism.
Nice.
And kind of fell in love with that, and specifically took the advertising and public relations route just because it was so like writing and creative focused, and just kind of stuck there. Like, it's, you know, it wasn't like I planned to go to school to do journalism, but it's just something I kind of fell into and really enjoyed, because again, just really enjoyed the like writing aspect of it. It's funny, I got a degree in journalism and then like immediately went out and did nothing with it for like 5 years. Just was like on the road constantly or working for things that had nothing to do with journalism.
You're back though.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, doing a lot of copywriting, and like it's come in handy, and it's definitely been useful. But just funny that I got it and then immediately was like, yeah, well, I don't really know.
I know. That's like the story of like, I mean, I'm assuming we're pretty close in age, but it's like our generation, like our group of people, we're just like, so many people, so many of my friends are the same way. It's like doing nothing related to their major, you know, or maybe they get back around to it, but like just didn't. But
what year did you graduate high school?
High school was 2006.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm 2009. So we're definitely not super far off. I think you were a senior when I was a freshman.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Definitely fall within the same like generation or whatever.
Yeah, I'm fun fact. The day that we're recording this is December 3rd, but my birthday is tomorrow. So
Nice, dude. My
Yeah.
birthday's a week from tomorrow.
Nice. December.
Yeah.
December birthdays are the best.
Couple Sagittarius boys.
That's right. That's right. My dad's is the 5th. My cousins are the 1st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
December family. My dad's was a couple weeks ago. His is, or not even a couple weeks. He's is the 26th of November. So we always like have like a 2-week span of my dad's birthday, then my birthday.
Nice. Did you ever, so growing up, my birthday, we always celebrated my birthday like Thanksgiving time. I think it was mostly because we went to, like, we did 2 birthdays, but it was like, that's when I would be with my extended family, you know, like my grandparents and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we'd always like celebrate my birthday then. And then like, I'd always have like something at home, you know, on the 4th. But
yeah.
Like, did you ever have anything like that with it being
I'm
December?
super lucky. Yeah. My birthday falls exactly 2 weeks before Christmas and like usually 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving can fall anywhere from like the 21st to the 28th. This year it's on the later side, but if it's on the 21st, like it's like definitely just the middle spot between both holidays. And so it's in that sweet spot of like, you can't really lump it in with either because it's too far away at that point from both. Yeah. So like I like have to celebrate it on its own, but it has its own drawbacks, like especially in college. Like my birthday always fell during like the first like Tuesday or Wednesday of finals week. So no one could like ever do anything because they had to study for finals. So it was like fine like growing up because, you know, when you're a kid you just have your birthday whenever. But in college, when it was like your actual birthday, you want to do stuff with your friends. I was like, well, we're busy with like making sure we don't fail. So
yeah. Well, mine was always during wrestling season. So it's always been like, even in high school, you know, like cutting weight or doing whatever. It was always like, well, so much for that. Cake. Yeah. Yeah.
And like now, especially too, like this, when I'm, you know, as an adult now, like my birthday always falls like right before or after the weekend that like people's jobs are doing like their holiday parties. So like my birthday's like your birthday's tomorrow and it's a Wednesday. So like it's the middle of the week. Not too many people are going to be able to like do anything. Right. But then the weekend that follows it, Friday the 13th, is like my company's like holiday parties. We're doing that. And the 14th, like a lot of the people that I want to like hang out with, their companies are having their holiday party. Yeah. So it's like we have to figure it out. So I think I'm going to celebrate my birthday on like the 7th or something, which like I'm the type of person that I don't like. I think celebrating after the fact makes more sense than before. Like it feels like a little premature.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't feel real.
Yeah, like I would
fake.
feel. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I was thinking like, oh, I'll just celebrate on the 13th because like my birthday's on the 11th. The 13th feels like, okay, well, my birthday happened. It feels better. But now it's like, hey, your birthday's in 4 days. Let's like party. Like that feels weird.
Yeah, you should have just told him to like, you know, put your name on the, you know, the party. You know, it's for work, but you know, you just say it's for you. You know.
Yeah, I've got like a plus 12 coming. Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm just gonna bring my posse with me. It's all good. So you're a journalism major.
Yes.
What did you have like any professors or like classes that you really enjoyed or like really inspired you?
My senior year or my junior year, I had a guy named Dr. Sidney Burris, and I was taking a class that had literally nothing to do with my major, but it was called is a special class, and he was called Nonviolence. It was just a class on nonviolence, and he co-taught it with a monk named Geshe Dorji.
Oh wow!
And so I just had a semester of nonviolence, which was on like just learning about peaceful protests and like just like nonviolence throughout history, and like nonviolence is like a theory and like not just a practice of like what it means to live like a nonviolent life. And it was super cool, and you know, just not something I think a lot of people would expect at the University of Arkansas to offer. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Super cool. He was the head of our honors college, and that was just a really interesting class that I just really has like stuck with me, and I remember very well. I also had a guy that I liked. A guy named Dr. Fosu, and he taught like my advertising basics class my junior year or so. And I really liked him. his class wasn't like super interesting or anything, but I just thought he was like a very kind man and like a very good professor. And so I just really enjoyed like going to his class. He was always very cool. And he was from Ghana. And like one day, I think, because this was like 2013, I was wearing like an Invisible Children t-shirt to class, which was rare. I didn't really wear a lot of Invisible Children shirts after I came off of working from Invisible Children. But I think like that day, I was like, yeah, I don't have a shirt to wear, so I'll just wear this one. But we ended up having like a really good conversation about Invisible Children and then like Africa as a whole for like an hour after one of his classes one day. And
that's awesome.
That was super. Yeah, it was really cool that he was just like down to talk about it. Which was super fun. So that kind of stuck out to me too. But I wasn't like a person that necessarily like was like, oh, I heard this teacher was good, I'll take the class. I was just like, how can I build a schedule to where I don't have to go to class on like Friday and Monday? Or like, how can I get the most time off during my
not
week?
At 8 a.m.
Yeah, and not at 8 a.m. So like I got lucky a couple of times where those people turned out to be good teachers, and I wasn't trying to get them, I just happened to get them.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. How did you hear about Invisible Children?
So I actually went to one of the high schools. It's like a quote unquote like legendary IC high school.
Okay.
I went to Cypress Woods High School.
See, I saw that on your Facebook, and it like stuck out to me, but I didn't know why, and that's probably why.
Yeah, that's like one of the schools that like always shows up for Invisible Children. The first time I did it was there was a group. We're the Cywoods Wildcats, and in 2007 there was like a student group called the Advocats that just kind of brought in nonprofits. In 2007 was the first year we brought in Invisible Children, and they were doing still doing tours back then. And a guy named Esteban Castaño like headed that organization up, and he brought in the roadies, and like we just had so much fun. And like I wasn't a main part of the Advocats, but I was friends with a lot of people that were 07, 08. And so 09, that fall when they came back, I was like more involved with it. So I heard about Invisible Children in high school. So I've been with Invisible Children almost since its inception, because 07 was the first year I heard about it. And I think like 05, 06 was it really started. So I was like an OG ICer, because that was back when they were doing the tours with just Americans, like no Ugandans were even there. It was just like American dirtbag teenagers that wanted to get in the van and tell people about what was going on, which I thought was super cool. Yeah. And that was like, to me, like in high school, like the roadies that came to my school were like rock stars, and I can't remember who they are.
They totally were. I know.
But like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is who I want to, like this is what I want to do. Yeah. That's like where I first got the touring bug, and I didn't become a roadie until 5 years later. But like every time the application went out, I was like, oh, I should do that, and I never did. And then in 2011, I was a team Southeast. Yeah, Southeast is a team, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so Team Southeast, it was Matt Pack, Addie Horn, and Max Engels.
That's them.
Came.
Yeah, that was. That was one of my tours. So
that was fall 2011, I believe.
Okay.
And they came through, and I had been friends with Max because we had just met randomly like through online stuff, but he was like, dude, you gotta be a roadie, and like he was so funny. He was like, dude, he like basically like was like, dude, you're gonna be a roadie, and you're gonna be on a team with Chris Tuttle, who I had no idea who he was talking about. But I was like, okay, and he's like, just gonna fill out the application, and I was like, okay. So I filled out the application, and I became a roadie, and Chris Tuttle, sure enough, was on my team in spring 2012.
That's awesome. Dude, I haven't talked to that guy either in a while. I need to have him on this podcast one of these days.
He's like you, man, just living the married life.
Yeah. Hey, it's a good life. What was I going to ask you? I had a question. Did 2006, 2007. That's when I learned of Invisible Children, 2006. But I don't think we had. Well, so Alex Collins went to my school, so he graduated the year before me.
Okay.
And so he was a part of the first event, like what was it called? The night commute one, like the commuting.
Oh yeah, dude.
And so like he helped put that on with like Notre Dame or whatnot, like Bethel and Notre Dame kind of put it on together. And then so he kind of brought it and introduced it to like my buddy, my roommate, I believe. And then he like shared it with me and a couple guys in our dorm, and we were like, let's do this. Like we're all in from that point, you know? And so we brought in, I think it was the next spring, maybe like, so spring 2007, we brought in the roadies to our college. And then it was the same though. I mean, it was that it totally like they had this like rock star status type deal, you know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt so special. But that was, did you ever meet Sabrina? I don't know if she was around whenever you were there. She was HR for a little while, but I think she had moved on once you came in. But she was my roadie, so she had worked in HR eventually, and she was the one that talked me into it and was like, hey, like, they'd kind of like picked like a few of us from our school and like, you guys need to come, like, you guys need to apply.
Yeah.
And we all kind of put it off. It was kind of that same thing. We'd all kind of thought about it and ended up doing it a little bit later on down the road. But good old Invisible Children. Did you go to college and then at all, like straight out of high school then, or what was the timeline there?
Yeah, I graduated and then went straight to college. I didn't take like a gap year or anything. Okay. But then it was super fun.
Took a semester off and came to Invisible Children?
Yeah, so I actually took a semester off to go to Invisible Children.
Nice. What led to that decision?
I just like been told, like, I just wanted to be a roadie for so long.
Yeah.
And I was like sick of making excuses. And it was like, I think too was like, it was the season that like Timmy was like, they put Timmy in the cage and, you know, they were doing the like 24-hour live stream with like the van seat in the office and all the videos that I had seen, like, you know, Invisible Children great at making like a recruitment video.
Yeah.
And like, I just like finally was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm going to apply. Like, I'm sick of like wanting to do this and not doing it.
Yeah.
And it just seems like I've got people that have my back that like want me to do it. So I applied and like went through the interview process and like didn't feel like I nailed the interview process at all, but I think I did better than I give myself credit for. I think I was just like super hard on myself at the time.
Yeah, clearly, because that was a big one.
Well, roadies were held to such a high standard, and it just felt like, I don't know if I'm like, definitely had some like imposter syndrome the first few days of like, I shouldn't be here, but it ended up being, you know, incredible because I still talk to so many people from that roadie class. But I was just, I like, once I like got it, it was like, I think I'm supposed to do this. Like, I'm not really sure, like, why I feel so strongly. Because like I'd always been into Invisible Children. Like, obviously they came to my school, and like when I went to Warped Tour growing up, like they were at Warped Tour, which I thought was super rad, and they were like always kind of tied with the To Write Love on Our Arms crew for some reason to me. Like, I always like associate those two people, and To Write Love on Our Arms to me was a big deal in high school. And so I was just like, I'm sick of like feeling like I'm supposed to do this and then not doing it. So once I like for sure got it, I was like, I'll do it. I'll take the week off or like the semester off. Like who cares? Like, I can always go back to school.
Yeah. That's awesome. I thought about it. I came really close my junior year before going back my senior year. And it was one of those things. It was like, I got one more year left. Just go ahead. And and I already talked myself out. Like I was looking at different nonprofits when I was graduating college that I wanted to go work for. And that was when it was like legitimately the same day that I was like looking at all these different like nonprofits, and I was supposed to be in a May term class and listening. I was in the class, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying a bit of attention. And we had computers. It was like probability and statistics or whatever. And I was just like Googling different like nonprofits that I was interested in. And I got a message from Sabrina. It was like, hey, I know I've asked you before, but you should consider like applying. We need a driver. We need males. Like, it'd be great.
Male driver, man, always a big. Yeah, it was like, I think I always joked like that was half the reason I got hired.
Probably
I was a dude that could drive.
Yeah, same. I mean, no shame. Hey, got me in the door. Here I am. Yeah, but and I was like, all right, I'll think about it. Like, let me give you a call later on in the day. And the rest is history.
Yeah, there it is.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. So when you graduated college, what did you want to do? Like, what was next for you?
I wasn't super sure. I knew that like I enjoyed writing and like I thought about journalism. But I just, I got caught up in the band thing pretty quickly. But I think coming out of coming out of college, I was like, yeah, I think I want to try to like go intern at, like, I think 2013, 2014, like was kind of the emergence of like the blogging kind of writing on the internet, where like blogging was taking over. Like it was articles, but it was like in the blog format, and I really thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So like I think my dream job at the time, like coming out of college, was like I want to go write it and try to be a part of things at Grantland, because I thought what Grantland was doing at the time was really cool, just like very sports and culture heavy, but like in a very young kind of way.
Okay, I'm not familiar with them.
So Grantland is actually Bill Simmons' first sports podcast or sports like network that he spun off from ESPN when ESPN fired him, and then he closed down, or ESPN closed down Grantland, and then he started The Ringer, which is still going now, obviously.
Gotcha.
But that was like I think my first inclination of like, oh, I think I want to try to write. But also I had been doing stand up for like a year and a half at that point, and like had gotten to the point where I was like getting to do shows kind of consistently, and was like, maybe there's something to this like doing comedy for a living thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also I knew that in the Midwest there's like a certain kind of ceiling that you hit fairly quickly, or you just kind of have to go other places. And so, and I wasn't like confident enough in myself to be like, oh, I can for sure just move somewhere and make this work. But it was always like in the back of my mind of like, this would be fun to do, like just for money consistently.
Yeah. What led, like, when did you first decide? When was like the first gig you ever did where you're like, I'm going to go do stand up, or I'm going to go do comedy or whatever?
Yeah. So I did, there's like a student comedy competition at the University of Arkansas, and I did it. I got like 4th place. It was my first time ever doing stand up. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Like people liked me enough to like put me in the top 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
I think there was like 8 contestants, but whatever. But I was like, I'll take that for like, especially because my first time ever doing stand up, I will take that all day. And then the girl that won it was very funny. Her name is Whitney Watson. She still does stand up in Chicago to this day. Like incredibly funny.
Wow,
but
awesome.
she won, like, and she should have. She kicked ass. But she was like, "Hey, come to this open mic with me." And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I just wanted to do like one time just to kind of get it out of my system. And she's like, "Just come. I want you to see something." I was like, "Okay." So I went to this open mic and like watched the comedians like perform, and she like pulled me aside afterward, and she was like, "What did you see?" And I was like, half of these people are like very funny, but like the other half, like I'm funnier than they are for sure. And she's like, that's true. She's like, but they like have the guts to get up there and do it, and like you don't. So like they're funnier than you. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point.
Oh,
so that
shoot.
she like, it was really good. Like it was really good. If, like if you want to be like, if you think you're funny, like you can talk and tell people you're funny like all you want, but until you get up on a stage and like have the guts to try and do it,
good for her.
Like then, yeah, it was really good. Like wake up call. And then. So I started doing open mics, and like I sucked for like a good 6 months because I didn't know how to write a joke or like format a set or anything. But like after 6 months, I think I did a set where like I just had like a constant laughter throughout the entire set at an open mic, and I was like, that's fun and cool and good. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And then after that set, I kind of consistently kept going, and then I got asked to be on like Show for Money, and like I was just like the opener, did like 3 minutes, but then kept getting asked to do these shows for money, and then I started consistently getting shows for money. But I think it was like the first open mic I remember at this bar called Riley's, where I like went a full 6 minutes and like had laughs the entire time, like start to finish. And I was like, okay, I think I can like do this.
That's so cool. That's awesome. I like, it takes a lot of guts, and it takes a lot of work to put all that together.
Yeah.
What's your writing process like for joke writing?
So I keep a notebook on me at all times, and just like if I see something funny or think of something funny, I'll just kind of jot it down. And usually for me, I just kind of write bullet points, and then when I get home, I'll flesh out like the full joke, like the setup or the full punchline sort of thing. Whereas like in my notebook, it's really just bullet points of like X, Y, and Z, and then I'll get home and like flesh out the full joke. And then
do you do that in your head, or is that like written? Do you write that out as you're fleshing things out?
I write it in a notebook of like kind of like a roadmap. I don't write out the full joke, but I'll write like point A, point B, point C, punchline, and like I'll fill in, like I know what I'm gonna say in between of those points to get to those points. I don't fully write out the joke. That's just like too much for me.
Sure.
But I will just write like the like kind of bones of the joke, and then I'll fill in the like muscle and tissue of it as I'm like telling the joke later.
Yeah.
And then I also use my Twitter a lot to like fire off jokes that I think are funny. And then it's kind of like a good testing ground of like, hey, this did well on Twitter. It might do well, like on stage.
Yeah. What's your Twitter handle for everybody listening?
If you want to follow me, it's just my name, just at Saul Malone. No underscore, no dash or anything. I got on Twitter super early, so I got lucky and my name was just available.
Yeah, same. I've got like my Gmails. Oh, here I am saying that. Yeah, whatever. Like my personal Gmail is my name, and yeah, my Twitter and stuff is all the same as well. Like early on, I feel lucky about it now, right?
Yeah, definitely. Great for my personal brand.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's so cool. Is your process for writing articles and like the other things that you write, like, is it similar, or what's like your process for that?
So, I mean, luckily I'm like a procrastinator, and with sports, a lot of like writing things is like last minute as results come in and that sort of thing. But for movies, like I do go through like a little bit more of a process where like I'll see the movie, and then like I'll see a movie like a week before the articles do or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see it and I'll think about like, do I want this article to be funny? Because like the way I write movie articles now, they're not necessarily reviews; they're more kind of open discussions. So like there's some where I'll take a little more seriously. Like I did an article about The Irishman a couple weeks ago, and that was like a very serious movie, and like not exactly like, there's funny moments, but like it wasn't like I could write like a jokey article about it.
Yeah.
Whereas then like I just did like an article before that where I wrote about like the lighthouse, which had like some very weird moments, and like I was able to feel like slip in jokes that made sense.
Sure.
So it really just depends on like the content of what I'm writing. Like sports, it's kind of hard to be jokey. I wrote like one joke article about our football team because our football team is very bad this year, and like I wrote a joke article about it. And it was pretty well received, which I thought was cool. But you know, for that, it was just like, oh, let's have some fun with a bad team. But for sports, it's pretty serious and kind of just like last minute and a lot of like research into numbers and stats and making sure you have the right information.
Yeah, content.
Whereas like the movie stuff, I can be a little more like kind of interpretive with how I want to write the article. But I'll kind of sketch out I like writing things by hand. Like I'm just like, here's the main bullet points I want to hit, and then I'll like fill it in when I'm actually writing the article.
That's cool. It takes so much discipline, you know? And it's funny that you say that you're a procrastinator because it's still like this discipline that you kind of have to have, like, and it takes like you have to be so sharp. I feel like I like struggle. One of the things I probably dislike about doing the podcast is like writing the descriptions, and just because it doesn't come easy for me. Like I have to like think through it, and I'm like, what do I want to say? Like I want to be thoughtful. I want to like celebrate the people that I have on, but I also like, I don't know. I want people to like read it and want to listen, you know, at the same time. And it's just, it takes, I like think about it so much. Like it's a process for me, but I don't know if it's the same or if that's just how it is, but I don't know if I've ever really been a writer, even though I wrote a lot in college.
Yeah. It's hard to like, I think too, there's like a very loose or like a weird like definition of what a writer is, but I think anyone can be a writer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're probably a good point. It's probably a good point. Do you have any like good stories from the road, from tour, from life? I don't know. Any good memories?
I'll tell you my favorite story from the road. This was Warped Tour 2016. And so Warped Tour in Vegas always has a Vegas show. There's always a day off either before or after, usually the Vegas show. They kind of sandwich an off day like before. So it was off day, Vegas show, off day.
Gotcha.
And so we got there the off day, and the Warped Tour show was at the Hard Rock Hotel.
Nice.
And casino, which was super fun. So the night before, we had all been like gambling and drinking and hanging out. And it's like 2 a.m. at this point. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, like I'm tired. We have to get up early. Like we have a show to play tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like we should get ready to do so. So I'm going to bed, and like me and some friends are walking back to the elevator to go up to our rooms, and Coolio just walks by, and he's like with his posse, and I was like, this is like Coolio's not like pulling, the same sort of clout he was back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's still like, you know who Coolio is.
Yeah.
But I guess Coolio like recognized some people just from being in the music industry in the group I was with, and like just talked to him and like was like, okay, cool. And then we were just like rolling, and then I look and like Coolio's just with us, and we're like in this elevator going up to my room to just like chill out for a little bit. And the guy was like, yeah, I guess Coolio wants to hang, and I was like, sure, we can hang with Coolio, but I'm probably gonna go to bed. Like that sounds fine. So we're just like up in my room, like chilling, and like I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and like I'm falling asleep, and like Coolio made fun of me for like falling asleep. He's like, hey man, be a little bitch, wake up. And I was like, what? It's like 3 a.m. Like, let me just go to bed. Like, you don't know, I don't know you. You know what I mean? Like, let me go to sleep, dude. But he's like, hey man, I know a place where we can go where we won't get security. And I was like, I wasn't planning on security getting called on us here, but like, I guess we can go. So I guess Coolio lived in the apartment building, literally right across the street.
Okay.
And they were like, all right, we're going to go to Coolio's. And I was like, I'm going to stay here. And one of my friends, Brian, was in a band that was on the tour, on Warped Tour that summer as well. And he actually lives in LA now. We were talking about this the other day. But he was like, come on, dude. Like, when are you ever going to get to hang out with Coolio ever again? Like, when are you ever going to be able to have this story? And I was like, yeah, dude, that's fine. You're right. So I like found like a drag of energy, and we followed Coolio literally across the street at 2 a.m. to his apartment. And Coolio's apartment was like really weird because it was like big and nice, but like didn't have like, it was like almost like a rich guy's apartment, but like not quite.
Yeah.
So like it was huge, but like he had like a basic TV with like local channels. Like he didn't have cable, like a satellite or anything.
Yeah.
And like he had a really cool sound system, but he didn't have any sort of like aux cable. Like it could only play CDs. Like you couldn't hook up to like an iPhone. And this was back when iPhones had like the headphone. Like you could have just hooked up with like an aux cord, but he didn't have like any hookups. There was like the only thing in his fridge was like beer. It's like a college dude's apartment, but it's like nicer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like he kept just saying like really weird shit, and like one, I get it, you need the boost.
Yeah, I wanted to be in bed, so like I get it.
Yeah, I should be asleep right now, bro. Like, so my favorite thing that Coolio said. It's like so whack and like so inappropriate, but it's so funny. We were just like, he's giving us a tour of his like apartment. We went to his bathroom, which again was huge, and he like pointed to a shower, which was massive. Like his shower was like the size of my bathroom, like my current bathroom, like in my apartment. His shower was that big, and he was like, "That's a shower. It can hold 12 bitches." And I was like, "What? Like, have you like tested that out? Like, maybe you have. Like, I'm sure you have. You're a rat. Like." You're like a guy with maybe has money and like some sort of celebrity left. But I was like, is that just how Coolio measures things? Like just in how many bitches it can hold? I'm just like, yo, this is my apartment. It's 1,600 square bitches. So like he just kept saying weird stuff all night. And like after like I was there for like an hour, and like I was just hanging. Like I drank a little bit, but it was mostly just watching Coolio do coke with other people. And I was like, this isn't fun. Like.
Yeah.
I like looked at my friend Brian. I was like, "Can we?" Like the sun was starting to rise. I was like, "Dude, we have to go. Like I have to get some sleep." And then I got back to our hotel room that I was sharing with the lead singer of the band that I was touring with at the time. And when I got there, he was definitely in the middle of having sex with someone. So I was like, I can come back later. So I went to the lobby and chilled in the lobby for like another hour, and then finally got to go back up to the room that I had paid for. Like at like 6 a.m. and I slept from like 6 to 7:30, and then I had to do Warped Tour the next day.
Oh man, what a long day, huh?
That's my like. I just tell that as like a full routine, like stand up wise sometimes, like because that story in itself is enough.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to add anything to it. I literally just have to tell people what Coolio said and did.
I love it. That's hilarious. That's awesome. That's a hilarious story. Did you make it through the next day, or were you just like dead?
Yeah. So luckily, one of the sponsors of Warped Tour is Monster Energy drink. So
perfect.
I just like pounded Monster all day. Like my teeth hurt at the end of the day because of how much I drank, but I made it through the day. You know.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, we're getting close to the end here. I just have a few more questions. These are maybe These tend to get a little deeper. You ready?
Hit me, baby. Yeah.
All right, let's do this. What are you looking forward to most in the future? You know, do you have any like goals or ambitions?
Yeah. I feel like I'm finally kind of selling into creative things I want to do. I am. I'm really enjoying writing and for SB Nation and like writing about Arkansas football and that's why I really enjoy writing about movies and have been really grateful that they've allowed me to like include a movie segment every week on a website that's pretty much exclusively about sports. And
Yeah.
I co-host that podcast, and I'm actually launching a podcast early next year about movies that I'm really looking forward to, that I've been recording episodes for to get ready for, which is super fun.
Nice.
So I'm just kind of enjoying like being creatively fulfilled at the moment. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just know I'm doing a lot of things that I like, and I feel like if I keep doing them, I'm going to end up in a position at a job somewhere where I just get to do it, but for money, you know, where I'm like getting paid to do these things that I like to do. And so I just feel like I'm in a space where there's a lot of opportunity, but I don't really see how the pieces of the puzzle all fit together yet. But I feel like they're starting to maybe come together, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So just hopefully getting more opportunities to write for other people and to be on podcasts and keep making things. I just like making things.
That's awesome, man. Keep it up. I'm impressed. I didn't realize what all you were doing. That's really cool. That's really awesome. Yeah, you're in a really good spot. I you know, like I said kind of in the beginning, like this, I started doing the same thing of like, what do I like to do? What am I good at? Like, what are the things I want to do? And just kind of surrounding myself with those things and seeing where it goes. And I think that's a great, like, are you familiar with Gary Vee?
Yeah, I know Gary Vee.
Yeah, like he talks about that a lot, you know, like finding that thing that makes you happy, that bliss, you know, and like finding those things that you enjoy doing and kind of surrounding yourself with. And I think it's a great spot and a great place to be. And shoot, man, who knows, right? Like we're young men.
Yeah,
we got a whole nother life to live. So
for sure. I'm excited about it. It's funny. I know I just literally talked to you about myself for like an hour and a half, but I don't normally like to tweet about things I'm doing or like talk about things I'm doing publicly unless like I'm asked to. It's like, hey, can you tweet about the podcast? We need people to listen to it and that sort of stuff. But like, it's funny when I make things that I'm not the first person to just be like, hey, I think this is good or like put it out. So I'm like learning that I need to do that. And like, it's, if you make something like people want to like see it or like give it a shot. So you have to like take the chance that they're gonna
it's part of, like you said, building your brand and kind of like putting yourself in. It's a vulnerable state though, especially like writing and like joke writing and, you know, podcasts in general. And that was tough for me in the beginning with podcasting. It was like, man, here I'm about to put my life out there, you know, and like just talk about whatever, you know. It's not just my guest, it's also me and my opinions and my thoughts, and who I am is now very prevalent in the world. And so it's interesting. It's a vulnerable thing. You kind of have to just push yourself to get through, I guess. Yeah,
dude. It's push past that uncomfortableness of like, it feels like no matter what, even if you're just like being humble, it feels like braggadocious to talk about things that you've done.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a weird feeling, but it's like, I still run into it. I'm the same way. I mean, I don't know how much to like promote the podcast. Like it's like a lot of word of mouth, you know, and right now. And I don't know, it just feels, it's like this dance that you're doing with this, kind of putting yourself out there, but like trying to keep it humble and keep it tight and keep it, you know, I don't know, clean and special and, not be like, hey, look at me, like look what I'm doing, you know, but like it's more than that. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird spot. Do you ever think about your legacy?
It's funny, like not until like recently when I like started creating these things of like, what do I want to leave behind? I think I like first thought about it when I first started going to therapy of like, oh shit, like I've been like really shitty to a lot of people and I don't want that to be my legacy.
Sure.
And I feel like a lot of my life, like post going to therapy, which granted has only been like a couple of years now, has been like, how do I kind of course correct?
Sure.
Of like I've been like really shitty to a lot of people and like have to make amends, and how do I do that? And then how do I like start creating things that are good?
Yeah.
And like that's what I'm remembered for, and instead of like being a douche.
Sure. Yeah, it's a weird thought. I asked the question and I don't have an answer for that either. You know, like the question for me first came when I was in college, and we had a professor. One of the projects or one of the assignments we had was to like write our epitaph. You know, like
yeah,
and it like made me think about it. And I don't know. I think it's a good question just to see where people are at. But
yeah, it also feels weird. Like legacy just feels like a thing for like people that are more important than me.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like a thing for like A-list actors and like earth-shaking writers, and like not something that I necessarily would have, but like it's like everyone does have a legacy. It's like
everyone does. Yeah. But that's like when we think of it, like that's when you hear the words, I guess, is like, oh, the person left this legacy, or you know, these important people. You're right.
Yeah.
Looking back, what advice would you tell little Saul?
It's okay to like the things you're gonna like. Don't pretend to like other things because you think people are gonna think you're weird for liking them. Like the things that I like have like evolved into being the things that are cool now, which I think is really funny. Like growing up listening to like emo music and stuff like that, like wasn't cool, and like liking theater wasn't exactly like the coolest thing, or you know, writing, and like I just felt like I had to like all these other things. But like as an adult, it's like, yo, these are the things I like, and I'm like unashamed to like them. And I think too, one of the coolest things, maybe there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. Like you like what you like, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. Unless it's like something gross and problematic, then like, okay, maybe we can dive into that. But just if you like pop music and want to listen to like Katy Perry all the time, go for it. Like, don't feel bad about it. It's cool to like podcasts, and it's fun to like want to write about movies. Like that's fine. Don't feel like you got to feel pressured to like other stuff just because other people tell you like what you need to like.
Absolutely. I love it. Saul, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Shane, thank you so much for having me, dude.
I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story and being vulnerable with us and sharing a little bit about your life.
Yeah, man, that was super fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I'm going to close this out here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Please visit us on Facebook and Instagram. You can like and comment on our posts. If you want to go above and beyond, please share the Crazy Face Uno podcast with your friends and family or random strangers on the street. We're welcome to everyone. Once again, please visit crazyfaceuno.com. You can purchase our merchandise and donate. Your contributions help us tell more stories like Saul's and stories just like yours. Thanks again for listening, everyone. We love you all. Peace!